everybody, my name is Ryan. This is my review of Wonder Woman, directed by Patty Jenkins, starring Gal Gadot and Chris Pine. This movie is fantastic. I really enjoy it. I think that while it is really good, and there are like some huge, awesome moments in this, I feel like it is being a little overrated. I think that there is a lot of reviews I've seen that are just, this is groundbreaking and stuff. And I think that people are getting confused by what is groundbreaking in terms of the industry and what is groundbreaking in terms of this film. So we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about why I really enjoy this movie, but you know why it's not the best. So let's get into it. This is Nerd. First of all, I want to say that I feel like this review might seem a bit negative to some people. I think that for the most part of this review, I might be talking about some of the things I didn't like as much, but that's only because I feel like I'm doing this review 2 weeks later. This video is going to have spoilers in it, so be aware for that. I feel like if I just do this review talking about all the things that people have already talked about Wonder Woman and gone on for a long time talking about why they like, then there's no real point in me still doing this review. So considering that from all the reviews I've seen, there's just a lot of positive, you know, a lot of people seem just overwhelmingly good things about this movie, and I don't think that that's totally true. I think it's still really good, and I want to get the point across that I really enjoy this movie, and I think it's really good, but I'm probably going to end up talking about the bad stuff more just because those are the stuff that I think is being looked over most. So, starting off, let's talk about what's good in this movie. I think Patty Jenkins is, there's some good and bad that comes with Patty Jenkins. I think, to start off with the good, though, I think that she does some terrific directing of these actors. I think that she does, that she gets really good performances out of all of them, and I can honestly say that, like, the scenes that they are in and that they act in, I feel like they are her exact vision. She gives off a vibe that, like, everything's kind of playing out exactly the way she wants it to, and there is some really good framing in this movie that I really enjoy. I think that the action is the only thing that I'm going to take Patty Jenkins, like, take some points away from her for. I feel like this totally looks like it's her first time directing, like, this big budget action, and I think that there are some really awesome moments, again, because the combat in this movie is great, and the choreography is also really awesome. Seeing Wonder Woman fight is one of the coolest parts of this movie, but I ultimately feel like the fight scenes aren't, like, they're not amazing, they're not groundbreaking in any way, and I feel like there are some great stuff about it. Yes, I really liked Wonder Woman just kicking ass, just being awesome. She uses the lasso really cool, and everything that she's doing is really fun, and she's, like, just clearly way better than all these soldiers, so there is a lot of fun seeing her fight, but at the same time, I think the ultimate way that these fight scenes are directed and edited take away from it a little bit. So first of all, there's a lot of slow motion in this, and I'm going to talk about specifically the main action sequence of this movie, in my opinion, which is No Man's Land, going to the two action sequences that follow it, which are going into, like, the tower fight, where she bursts into the room and just fights a bunch of guys, and also just fighting in the town. Because that is, like, the action climax to me. It is the biggest action set piece of the scene. It goes from, like, one set piece to another. You know, it's an epic sequence. It's really awesome. It goes on for a while. I love it. You know, it's awesome. It's one of the best parts of the movie. But there are some things that kind of slow this down a little bit. There are two major things I can say that bog this down for me a little bit and make this not the best action sequence in a superhero movie in the past few years. First of all, slow motion is overused in this. I think that slow motion used to be really cool, like 20 years ago, when it was like, look at this thing that's happening in slow motion, isn't it cool? It's like, when that was starting to be used, it's cool, but now I think we're in a different era of action filmmaking where you look at something like, because I think some of the pinnacle of action filmmaking right now is simplistically just cool directing, is John Wick. Because John Wick is like, it's not like $200 million, it's like just this guy beating up dudes, using, like, shooting them with, like, handguns. You know, it's the bare minimum of, like, a really cool action movie, and that movie knows that you get a better fight scene out of just having it be one sequence of a guy kicking ass, really well choreographed, not slowing it down, just showing what this guy can do, and it looks awesome. Another example of it, of the action genre doing this, is Daredevil. It works fantastically whenever they do it, and I think that you look at, like, Daredevil, the Season 1, the hallway scene, in Season 2, going down the stairwell and everything, it just looks cooler to have it be one shot. It looks like everything's really planned out, like it's choreographed, like it's happening better, and in this, my problem with this isn't that it's one shot, it's that it really fucks up the pacing of that action, and what kind of makes action movies good now, to have the slow motion and stuff kind of cutting in there and just kind of slowing down the pace of that fight scene and cutting away from Wonder Woman being badass and just kicking ass to her doing this one specific thing and just kind of taking you out of the action sequence and just locking you in this one moment it doesn't totally work for flowing with the action scenes, especially, and this is especially important because we're going through three different sequences, and for going through these three different sequences, there has to be some really good flowing to it, and there isn't exactly in this sequence, and with the slow motion kind of bogs it down a little bit. Also, I think the visual effects aren't the strongest all the time. Some things do look really cool. For instance, Ares, his costume, I think it looks epic. I don't totally love the villain that much, and we'll talk about that later, but I think that his costume itself and how he like carves the eyes into it, it's super cool. I really enjoyed that. And him, in fact, like carving the eyes into it is one of the coolest things that someone does in this movie, besides all the Wonder Woman action stuff. It's probably the coolest thing besides all the Wonder Woman action stuff. But there's also the Wonder Woman. There's also some bad visual effects, and the one that sticks out to me the most, because it was literally me thinking in my head, taking me out of the movie and going, that was a computer, was Wonder Woman is running, and she jumps, she leaps into a wall, and she leaps off the wall, jumping into the building, and there's a moment between like her leaping off the ground and her hitting the wall, when I can tell, and I can't remember the exact frame, but there's a moment where I can literally say, this becomes a visual effect, like a CGI shot, just because it doesn't look real anymore, and it's not a good transition, you know? It's a very clear cut. It isn't like taking it, there isn't exactly an in-between. It just looks like, here's real, here's CGI, and that's not great, because again, it took me out of the movie. Now, what I will say is that immediately after that, I am thrusted back into the movie because she breaks through the wall, she's staring at all the guys, the Wonder Woman riff comes on, and she just starts kicking ass and everything, and that's great, but then with the slow motion again, like, it takes me out of that action sequence a lot, and it just doesn't flow that well, so that is honestly, those are my biggest problems with Wonder Woman, because Patty Jenkins clearly hasn't really done a lot of action directing before, though I do think she is a talented director, and I do think she does a great job in this. So, those are my main problems. There's one other thing, there's a few other things actually that we'll address later, but for now, staying on what works. Let's talk about the cast, because I think that the cast is really amazing in this movie. Talking about the two leads specifically, because I feel like they're the two that get really the chance to shine. Gal Gadot, I feel like we have to talk about less. She already had a chance to be Wonder Woman, and she was fantastic in Batman v Superman, and newsflash, she's fantastic in this as well. Water, wet. Like, she's epic in this movie. She kicks ass. She delivers great humor, because the humor in this movie doesn't always land, and I don't love it a lot. I don't love it all the time. There's few too many dick jokes. The point is that I think that when Gal Gadot is doing this humor, she is very talented at it. The direction is clearly there. Again, it feels like you're getting exactly what Patty Jenkins wants you to get, and exactly like what the writing is inferring. I think that's just really good, and Gal Gadot is doing a terrific job at it. She is awesome as Wonder Woman. She's totally believable in the role, and I think that all her naivety comes off really well as not like stupid, dumb comedy where she's an idiot. It comes off as like she's a smart person in an alien world, and it makes sense what's happening to her, and it doesn't make her seem like an idiot, which could very easily have happened if the proper direction and proper acting hadn't come into this script. Chris Pine is also strangely fantastic. I came out of this movie just expecting to be blown away by Wonder Woman, and honestly, to Steve Trevor, he wasn't better than Wonder Woman, but because we had already seen Wonder Woman, the truly surprising and fresh and awesome part of this movie to me was Steve Trevor, played by Chris Pine. He was a really good job at doing the humor that Patty Jenkins wanted him to do, because again, it feels like this was really imagined as it was supposed to be, and I think that Chris Pine is a big part of that. His humor, even the jokes that don't land, he is doing a great job, and he's giving some great comedic timing and stuff, and I think that that's really good what he's doing. And also, Steve Trevor's death in the movie is, I think, probably the best part in general. It is an emotional moment, Steve Trevor sacrificing himself, Chris Pine doing a great job acting in that scene, and then Gal Gadot's like scream at the end, and then her just like murdering like a whole army of German soldiers. It's the best scene in the movie, because it's emotionally fueled. It's the end of the romance, which has been driving this movie so far. It shows Gal Gadot, like Wonder Woman, just going full berserker. It is in the pinnacle of the final fight. It's the best moment in the movie, and I really enjoy that. And the romance in this movie really works well too, because if you hadn't had Steve Trevor and Wonder Woman having this great relationship, that moment would have totally fallen flat, because you wouldn't have cared about their dynamic. But instead you do, and it works super well. Now, it's no secret I'm a Superman fan. I think that this movie is the Superman movie that I wanted in Man of Steel, because Man of Steel to me doesn't feel like a Superman movie. It doesn't feel like Superman is just totally saving everybody, and just like willing to save a cat out of a tree, and it feels like Zack Snyder plays around with the morality of it a bit and the logistics of Superman and stuff, just to an annoying point. Like the thing that I'll never get over is Superman not saving Jonathan Kent and Jonathan Kent dying essentially just to conceal Superman's identity and save a dog's life. The point is, like, I don't know. I feel like that just to me is the biggest representation of like why Man of Steel. I like Man of Steel. I think it's a really cool movie. It's an awesome blockbuster and just spectacle, visual action spectacle of just dudes punching things. But I think that that movie, in a Superman sense, is not a good Superman movie. It's a cool action movie, but it's not a good Superman movie because to me, Superman is that original, like, Richard Donner, Christopher Reeves Superman movie where he's just saving everybody and he's doing, like, literally everything he can to save everybody. And Man of Steel didn't give me that, and Batman v Superman really didn't give me that. My biggest problem with Superman and Batman v Superman is that Superman doesn't look like he legitimately wants to be doing this. He doesn't really have a drive, and I think the biggest representation of that is the scene where he's just going around saving people. He's got the rocket on his head. He's like flying in to save people from the flood, and there's the shot from the trailer where he's kind of like looking up and he's dark and brooding and stuff, and there's people just reaching to him in Mexico. It's so weird because it looks like Superman is just tired and bored and doesn't want to be doing this, and it's just his duty, and he has to because who else is going to do it? And I look at that and I'm like, that's not the Superman I want. The Superman I want is being played by Gal Gadot and directed by Patty Jenkins right now. Patty Jenkins is probably, like, because again, I feel like she has some action directing experience now. I think that if you took Patty Jenkins and got her to make Man of Steel 2, Man of Steel 2 would be everything I wanted Man of Steel and Batman v Superman to be from a Superman movie perspective, because this movie is the best representation we've got of Superman so far in the DCEU, and guess what? It's not Superman, it's Wonder Woman. This is the character that I wanted in Henry Cavill Superman. This is the character that I still believe we can get in Henry Cavill Superman. It's just that it's Wonder Woman, and it enforces the reason why I like Wonder Woman so much, for essentially a lot of the same reasons why I like Superman so much. She has this real drive, real dedication to do what she's doing. She's stepping up. Because the big thing is, you could argue it's like she's just doing it because she has to, but like any one of the Amazonians could have just gone and done this. She is stepping up to do it. She wants to do it. She feels like she needs to, and she wants to do it most of all. And I think that her in this movie and the heroism that she delivers is just probably the best. Now, two things that I want to talk about more that I don't like about this movie. First of all, the Wonder Woman riff is fantastic, and I love it in Batman v Superman, and when Wonder Woman bursts in during the No Man's Land sequence, bursts into the room, and she's like, just kind of looking at the guys, she's like, yeah, I'm about to kill y'all, and the riff starts there. It's epic, it's awesome, and that's a perfect example of when you use that Wonder Woman theme song. When she bursts into the room, she's about to kick a bunch of ass, she's just ready to decimate everybody. That is when you do it, because it signals that there's going to be a big action sequence on the way. However, this movie decides people really love that Wonder Woman riff. What are we going to do? We're going to remix it and use it as the score for the whole movie. And honestly, by the last time that they played that riff during this movie, I groaned out loud in the theater. It was annoying me that much. This movie is going to be hard for me to rewatch just because the score was like, because I like this riff, and I can recognize this riff because I've heard it so many times because it was awesome in Batman v Superman, so it's become like, and it's just an awesome pump-up song, like, yeah, we're doing this awesome stuff's happening, so I use it in my workout. So I think that just because I recognize the song so much, whenever I heard it in the score, it like became annoying because I was hearing it so much. It's in the beginning of the movie. It's in the middle of the movie. It's in that No Man's Land sequence. It's when it's in Wonder Woman just running through the city of the mascara. It happens like twice in the last 10 minutes of the movie. I think I counted at least 7 times that one theme song, that one like bit of score from Batman v Superman, the Issue With You score, like that specific track of the playlist, sorry, the soundtrack, I heard it at least 7 times remixed, and it was fucking annoying by the last time, and it pissed me off because I'm not gonna have a good time rewatching this movie because I came out of it being like, I don't want to hear this theme song ever again, and it's something that I loved 2.5 hours earlier, so that kind of sucked. Also, the villain sucks. Like, I'll just be honest, Ares, the twist is predictable as shit, because Ludendorff is clearly not Ares, because they never be like, hey, he's Ares. They're clearly, like, saying he's not Ares because Steve Trevor's like, what if he's not Ares? Wonder Woman's like, he's totally Ares, so he's totally not Ares. He doesn't form into the big suit. He doesn't get like huge superpowers or anything. He's definitely not a match for Wonder Woman. Their fight is totally anticlimactic, and if at that point you didn't guess that he was not Ares, I don't know what to tell you. But there's like one other person that can be Ares in this, and because of that, it's not really a twist when Sir Patrick becomes Ares. So yeah, it's kind of shit, and also he just isn't given that much time to flesh out as a villain himself, and David Thewlis was probably not cast to play Ares, he was cast to play Sir Patrick, and then this twist happened, and it doesn't work that well. So, what do you think about this movie? Ultimately, I think it's still great. I think it's still like a 7, maybe an 8 out of 10. I think it's still the best movie that the DCEU has done so far, and I'm much more hopeful and enthusiastic for Justice League now seeing this, and also I think that like I would love to see Wonder Woman 2, especially directed by Patty Jenkins. Patty Jenkins, she wants to go do Man of Steel 2. I'd also be very excited for that. This gives me hope in the DCEU that I didn't totally have going into this movie, so there you go. What did you think? Comment your thoughts down below. Give this video a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe for more movie reviews. Next is The Mummy, and I'll see you all next time.